Well, John, like I said, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. Thank you for taking the time to chat.
Oh, no worries, bro. It's a pleasure to meet you too.
Look, I want to get started. As a fan of horror, like horror is very much my genre. I'm curious to know at what point in the development of this story you sort of felt horror was the best genre to explore themes like this and tell this sort of story. Where did horror first come into the Moogai's life?
Well, I've always been a fan of genre.
Mm.
Uh, Horror and sci-fi has always been my sort of and heightened kind of worlds, and that's
Mm.
what these are. But it probably always in the horror genre,
Yeah,
really. Like it
sure.
never, yeah. I didn't. That's just where it belonged. And
Yeah.
that's just come from probably like yourself, a lifelong love of those films.
Yeah, no, I can definitely tell that when I was taking in the story, and I'm curious about the story writing and the screenwriting process. I'm curious to know sort of what your approach is to do you develop the characters and sort of work a story and let their decisions dictate where the story goes, or are you a story first and then work the characters into exploring the themes and the story? What was the process of creating this particular story?
Uh, I mean, on different projects, I'm both, and
Oh,
it's sort of just like what what thing jumps out at you, it's just a character or a situation. But
mm,
on this one in particular, it was more about the story, and I wasn't sure the ending. I wasn't sure where to leave it. At one point, it was going to be
mm.
um, that they were just on the run, and that you never there was no real resolution, um,
Interesting.
which is not quite like the short, but it was a
Yeah,
similar sort of downer ending like the short.
sure. Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, it's
And
that's
then
interesting.
so at a
Oh,
yeah,
sorry, you go, mate.
you,
Yeah,
you
sorry.
go.
I think I'm on a slight lag. Apologize for that. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah. So it was kind of like, what kind of ending does this story need? But as soon
Mm,
as because the subject matter, the deeper themes are pretty full on,
mm,
it felt like you couldn't necessarily it couldn't be like a full-on horror movie where you watch the
mm,
downward spiral of somebody and then their sort of disintegration or something. It had to be something a little bit more, um, not necessarily following completely a hero's journey, but it had to be
mm,
something with a slight uptick at the end too, because when I was doing Redfern now a good few years ago now with Jimmy McGovern, and
mm.
he's a genre unto himself, that fellow, So we had a few conversations about um, just hopelessness in narrative, and what when you're watching a character go through um, confront certain situations, and the strategies and the tactics they use to deal with those situations, and just narrative, what we as human beings take from narrative.
So
And
interesting.
sometimes, oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
I was just gonna say, I feel like that really comes through the character of Sarah. She feels like that well-rounded character where we get to explore that sort of thing. That's what I was really thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to, I don't know, even when we're just talking, you know, you're talking with mates, you're talking with parents, you're talking with mentors, or up or down or sideways, whoever you're talking to, we just relate things through analogy. You know, we're not all just scientific thinkers who talk in sort of, um, objective terms. Most of us talk through our own subjective experiences, and that's what stories are, I reckon.
I agree. I agree. And I think the allegory of this film is where the emotional heart really is. I think relating to Sarah is the biggest thing in this film. So I'm curious to know, because I've read in interviews already that you've sort of talked about the process of turning this from a short to a feature, but I'm more curious to know how the character of Sarah developed over time. Was there things about her that you didn't really know or in the short, I guess, from to where she became in the feature? And what was that collaboration like with Shari in continuing to grow Sarah as a character?
Well, I mean, for this one, for this film, it was the reverse journey.
Mm,
I'd already sort of had a map for the feature in my head, and then when we talked about doing it as a proof of concept and taking it back. So in essence, it was more of a condensing
interesting.
the journey down to the short. And I think it probably gave the short more um, narrative clarity,
Mm,
or sort of a little bit more urgency, in the way that even if the film itself for the short, the shots might be slow, but the storytelling is moving. And that's
mm,
because I knew everything about it outside the timeline of the short. I knew everything about the world. I
mm,
had a bigger sense of the world. It was kind of a similar thing that I did with my first TV series, or the one that I created, The Gods of Weed Street. I'd written sort of 10 episodes and then brought it down to 6. Like if you explore the world in big and color outside the lines, when you come back in, you have all the answers for people. For funding bodies or financiers, when they sit in there and
sure,
goes,
yeah.
what happens outside this? You've got the answers, and you don't have to sit there and think.
That's,
The,
I
the
guess that's,
process
it's
works.
unique, isn't it? It's very unique experience
Yeah,
to craft a story like that.
it's a lot of work, but
Sure.
the process works. Yeah, yeah, the process works.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so fascinated to hear sort of the process of how story creation is. And that's the first time I think I've heard that there's been a sort of reverse engineering of it, which is incredible. I'd love to talk about, there's a line of dialogue that I think, while we were talking about the emotion of everything, and specifically Sarah's character, that I think kind of resonates, and it will resonate with a lot of people. And it's that it's just after the incident at the school, and she goes, I just need to feel this way until I don't feel this way anymore. And there was just some power behind that I really felt. But I'm curious to know, it got me thinking from an artistic perspective. When you are writing stories that do deal with such heavy themes, such as this film, is there a catharsis in helping you with those feelings? If you are feeling this way about a certain thing, is writing about it and getting that out there in an artistic way help you with those feelings at all?
Um, help me in particular,
Um,
or help one?
if it did for you, but it just in general, I've heard different opinions, which I just find very
Oh,
interesting.
in general, I think it is therapeutic to sort of get things out in
Mm,
sort of an artistic endeavor, if you can,
mm,
especially because um, I don't know, there's discovery in that, like actually
mm.
picking up a paintbrush and painting, and then coming back a couple of days later and going, oh wow, is that where I was emotionally? You don't know when you're doing it, like
Mm,
the act of creation and the act of examination,
mm,
um, those two things. If you can, come back and examine your own work with any sort of clarity,
mm.
that really reveals a lot. And in a lot of ways, it's cheaper than going to you know psychiatrist for
It is.
years and then going, oh right, that's how I felt.
I mean, that's a testament to that line. That line of dialogue that Sarah says kind of hit me in a way that I'm like, oh gosh, like that, yeah, that makes sense. Like I've never thought of it about just sitting in a feeling until it goes away. So I think that is a testament to the power of art as well. When you do resonate with something like that, I think it's quite incredible, to be honest. Um, I'm getting close to my time here, John. I do want to ask because as a fan of horror and iconic horror creatures, the sound design of the MOOGAI was when you first hear it in the film, I was like, oh, that's going to sort of haunt me for a little bit. I'm curious just to know the technicalities behind what was the sound design of this creature that you created. How did you ultimately come up with it?
Oh, that was all. Emma Bortignon, she's like, man, she's a bit of a crazy genius. I mean, she's not crazy. She's a bit of a genius in her own way. Like, um, we sort of talked about, and it was something that come from the short. We'd sort of talked about um, trying to take sounds from different sources and manipulating them in a way that they felt familiar enough.
Hmm.
But through the manipulation, there's something in that creeps you out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because I think that's the source of creepiness.
Sure.
It's that uncanny valley sort of
Big
effect.
time.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing I think that scares us, on a basic sort of, mammalian kind of level. In the
Mm,
core of our being, that thing looks human, but it's not human. It looks humanoid, and I don't know what to
mm.
make of that.
It's
Yeah,
it's effective,
sound
man.
and sound is such a big part of horror films.
It
You can
really
freak
is.
people out with sound.
Oh, even outside of the MOOGAI, the creature itself, the way you use sound when Shari is throwing the eggs in the sink, even that just had this visceral tone to it as well. Like again, something that we've all heard before, but yeah, sound is so incredible.
It enhanced all of Emma's stuff. It enhanced that over, and creepy was the word that I was chasing. That was sort of,
Right.
the word that I stuck up on the wall, and this is the feeling that I'm chasing here. And creepy sound design just put you're already on edge, and then just saying, "Yep, go further onto the edge. Feel it, feel it, feel it."
Oh
Yeah,
man.
that's scary.
As a horror fan, I can definitely say I've seen a lot of horror movies. That was creepy. You achieved creepy, my man. But like, but at the same time, it is such an incredible story, and you delve into so many incredible themes. So I think the balance of it is amazing. So congratulations on such an awesome movie.
Oh, thanks, man.